organizing these seminar series to introduce our new data science and analytics program. And we are inviting people from different fields because we want to have some idea about how the data can be used in different fields, different areas. Today our speaker is Selçuk Artut in our VACD program at Sabancı University. His work is mainly focusing on the intersection of arts and technology. And today Selçuk Hocam is going to present us how the data can be used in arts. As I said, I'm also excited about this talk because I'm also using data in my research, but I think many people don't have much knowledge about how the data is connected, can be connected to art. Again, thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
It is my great pleasure to be here, and I'm also grateful to you for being here with us and enjoying the moment. So what you're seeing is indeed a work of mine. These patterns have been generated with the use of code, but also loyal to a heritage called geometric patterns. Originally, these patterns are from the Karatay Madrasa in Konya, where I was able to photograph and then analyze them, and then generating these patterns out of this tradition, which dates back to 1,000 years before. I'm not going to take such a long historical walk from the beginning of the art and then today, but I'll be talking about a few of my works. But before that, I will introduce myself. I mean, I'm seeing some of my students, some of my peers around me, but some of you might not know me well, could get a better understanding about what I represent and why I'm here for. And I will be all the time walking and talking as long as my clicker allows me to do so. So, yes, let's start with the academic career because we are in an academy, right? So what I did a degree on mathematics at Koç University, and then I have decided to move into the field of arts with a tendency to make music indeed. And I'm going to also open up a parenthesis about it. And then I did a degree in 2005 in England, London, on sonic arts, meaning I make art with sound, not making music indeed. It's a larger umbrella. And then in 2012, I did a degree on philosophy of technology in Switzerland. But I mean, as in the introduction, it was explained. So I'm interested in art and design, technological arts, sonic arts, human technology relations, live coding, and creative coding. But again, following this path to know me better, let me also try to explain what music meant for me. Because right after almost about to graduate, I joined in a band called Replicas, and we played over a decade and released many albums. And I was there as a traditional musician playing in a rock band, so that's me in this picture, and then more of me. But anyway, in 2014 we decided to disband, but later in 2016 I formed another music project called Ra with a colleague of mine, Alp Tuan. And what we do is quite has an importance in this agenda. This is the music order. Raw. Maybe we could lower the volume of the music a little bit. What you are seeing, maybe not being able to see it, but it is us here. That's me and that's Alp. What you see behind is all visual landscape is generated by the codes. And sometimes we show the code to the audience. This is not a failure. This is part of the show where we also write computer codes to make music with. So we don't use any instruments of any sort or like make any like DJing performance. Rather, it's like an improvisation, like a jazz musician would do with an instrument. So this is my current ongoing music project, which is mainly, as you have realized, has a lot of experimental soundscapes and visual imagery. Again, another short clip about one of our performances where you can also see there's a relation between sound and image, where everything is code written, so there's no third-party program involved. I'm not going to make it too long for this, but maybe I can use it from here. But I want to show you where it can be. So again, there are times where we show the code to the audience. So this is called live coding. This is what I've been doing extensively. And with Raw, we were able to also release several mini albums. Why I did an introduction as such? Because I would like to bring another link to the topic. My interest in music also, and also maybe my personality being like interdisciplinarity, it led me to the field of the theater, and I had a great opportunity to work with marvelous theater companies. This was one of the early examples. This was in 2010. I'm so sad about like not being able to document it well, because those were the times we didn't have much of like smartphones around us. But what I did is quite important. Let me explain, and which is related to what we discussed here. So there was this Rimini Protocol theater company from Berlin. They're quite a famous theater company, which don't work with theater actors, but they work with real people. So instead of like going through like actors, and they really choose the pick-up theme and pick up certain people who are in this concern, let's say. So they were interested in these garbage collectors. Since you're living in Istanbul, you're probably familiar. There are plenty of these people going under these unfortunate conditions and such. But anyway, I'm not going to go into the details of the theater piece, but when Rimini Protocol came and asked me, they said, we want you to make music with earthquake data. So that's challenging, I know. It's a touchy thing as well, like the earthquake. We've been going through all these traumas. But I think when 2010, yeah, there was this issue of the nearby earthquakes going on. And but they wanted it to be real time. That's why I approached the people in the Bosphorus Observatory and then work with and talk with engineers, and I was able to communicate with them and asking what data can you send it to me, and in what format, and then I will deliver it and then turn it into a musical structure. Indeed, that happened, and I was able to turn that data, which was coming real time, in making into music. And during the theater performance, the music was played not from a recording of such, but it was generated at the instance. And then all of a sudden I realized, well, this is not the music I'm playing, this is the music the Earth is playing, because Earth is all the time has subtle vibrations. Some of them could turn into like earthquakes, but it does breathe in and out. But it's all up to you how you interpreted that data. The way I did it was to come up with some scale systems, and then this is again a small piece, not well documented, but having left and right piano gestures and movements. So indeed, in this situation, I'm more of the architect rather than the composer extensively, and the Earth is playing this for us. So this was in 2010 when I did it. Let me go and explain more about my artworks, and indeed I've been doing so many artworks, of course, but I'm gonna bring about the ones which are related to today's discussion. So this was a piece I did in 2016. Where we had no popularity of like ChatGPT or of any sort. And even people were not like talking extensively about AI. It was more about like machine learning, indeed, which I will go for that term instead. So the piece is called Variable. In this piece, it is interactive, but very simple interaction. There's another box next to it with a simple button. As soon as a person hits the button, I will play a video for it. The name of the piece changes. And the content, the artistic statement changes as well. It is because I applied machine learning algorithms and then trained the system. The book of Heidegger's Being and Time, I wonder if you read it. It's a very difficult one. Lots of ontological findings. And the text was generated as if it sounds like Heidegger would say for us. But then I was using like these themes like movement, and then this ontological text will be kind of like representing issues about movement. So it was generative. Each time the piece was changing. That's why it was called variable. The piece had a lot of like layers. One is it was creating fake statements, and it was a criticism against the art society, and saying, I mean, there are all these people who claim that they do the amazing artwork, but I mean, when you boil down to the moment to see what they're explaining, what they're talking about, there's none. So, I mean, this piece is about like whether this statement is also coinciding with what it represents and such. And let me also show you a small video of it. So in this particular case, my data set will be the Heidegger's whole text. It's made out of like phrases, words, and things. What I needed to do was a reinterpretation, regeneration, or finding a pattern behind his thinking and creating a resemblance of his statements. So when I did the piece, all of a sudden I received several calls from all over the place, including like I think these people from US. They even did an interview with me online. This new algorithm writes perfect art, speak for the signification terms in artists, and the algorithm writes fake artist statements that sound real. But we have to think contextual. Today it's very trivial, I think. I'm not gonna say my artwork is banal, but since we had the GPT, some of you might think, okay, it's possible, we can do it, but that was in 2016, long before this idea of like generating statements was possible. And I'm going to move on to another piece I did, which was 2010, An Ordinary Day of an Extraordinary Woman. I'm going to go and show you more about what it represents. It's about a killing story where a couple, this person is killing her couple for the sake of eating a single piece of baklava, okay, which is a Turkish taste you might know. I'm not going to go into what it represents artistically. But again, it's a murder story, but it was presented as such on the large screen. So this is like all frames laid out in front of you. So that's the beginning of the movie, and that's the ending of the movie. And it was fluctuating and moving. It's like a defragmentation of a hard disk. I think it looks like quite like a file system. So this is how it was presented. And that was indeed the video of it. So whenever you look into a frame, you could follow the movie, but when you can also get an idea about what it represents from a distance. So I didn't show the video of it by itself alone. It was only presented as this flow of frames. Yeah, another piece I have done in 2019. I think I was quite active in 2010 around getting involved with doing things with data. So this was a project I did called Al Sana Metin Ver Bana Görüntü Meaning. I'm giving you a text and send me an image, swap text for image, which I asked an author, a writer, Murat Uyurkulak, is a Turkish author, and asked him to write me a story, a follow-up story, made out of like 30 sentences, because by that time I also designed a website where we were putting all these phrases and asking people to send us some images back representing those texts. Again, maybe ChatGPT or like all these image prompts. That was in 2010 when I was dreaming of it, and it became possible. But I was more interested in how people think. What these writings represent in people's minds, and they were uploading them. And I was using those frames to make a film of these 30 different sentences. So the first day, for instance, I want to go blind before the end of working hours. I want to look blind. I stare at the sun. Some people really intentionally went out and did some photo shooting and took it very seriously. Some people just Googled it and find it like photographs of blind people and such. But anyway, it was also like a common observation about how people think about image and text. And then I was able to build up the experimental video. Swap text for image. I'm just gonna go and play bits of it. It's long.
Kör olasım var. Mesai saati bitmeden önce. Kör bakasın.
It's a long video, but I guess you got the idea. But then years after, in 2013, I was approached by someone who said, can I remake it? Because this time I want to use AI. I want to use AI, text-to-image generation, to make a new version of it. So this is the link to where the artificial intelligence version resides. If you're interested, you can have a look into. And the last one I'm about to show might also be quite interesting for those who are into sci-fi movies, was this project I did in 2016, dystopiautopia.com. It is a data visualization project, but it is visualizing the science fiction movies. The data set is formed as, I was referring to this website called IMDb, if you're familiar with it, which is talking about like movies. And let me also go and show you the interaction. I relied my visualization on this term called circular hierarchical edge bundling. Let me quickly, dystopia. This site, I mean, it's been over like a decade. I haven't touched much. And all the users are able to also join in and give, make the decision change. What this website offers is, so these blue ones are the genres of sci-fi movies, like dystopia, cyborgs, cryostasis, robot wars, and such. And these are the movies starting like chronologically. If you're familiar with From Metropolis to, so you see, I've left it alone in 2018. But what it does is, if you're interested in the singularity, it as soon as you click, it highlights all the movies that are talking about singularity. Or if you think what is silent running is about, so then you can do the reverse operation and go into and check, disorder, dystopia, epidemic, and such. So indeed, besides it's, I didn't say it, so let me do it quickly. And it is not super visible here because I think there are so many outliers in the system. So I didn't do any filtering. Every data goes in as it is loaded. So people can say, I think the damn movie is about extinction. So then their vote will automatically go into the system. That's why I think this is not, quite a corrupted data. But when I started, I realized so many of the movies were leading to the dystopia, the theme of dystopia. So this was what I was aiming to prove. I think the Hollywood movies mainly are based on, the sci-fi movies are based on dystopia, but it's a trivial statement. How would you prove it visually? Data visualization helped me to prove it, and I've been writing some journals and articles for journals about sci-fi movies and their themes and such. So this is still online. If you're interested, it is because if you double click, you can go to their IMDb links and then take a look at it. If you wish you want to watch it, you can watch it. Anyway, so this was a project I did in quite a while ago, let's say 2016. So let's go back to rather general statements. So this is why I'm here. Like, I've been doing things with data, proof of that statement. So today art is full of like ambiguous definitions, and here I feel the obligation to find a solution to this problem because I'm representing an academy, meaning we are here to clarify people's minds. So there are all these terms like computer arts, electronic arts, information arts. Eventually, they led up to like different names like new media, which I every time I'm like doing yet another presentation saying I don't like the idea of new media. I think new is a term that is borrowed from the modernity, saying whatever new is good, whatever old is bad. So, I mean, I don't like the terminology behind the new media. And some people call it digital art, but I have issues with it as well. So, I mean, we don't talk about digital photography, do we? I mean, it's photography, right? So it's art. But it is not only digital art, because digital is a banal term. It's either talking about zeros or ones. But we're living in an era where we're surrounded by technology, and I would want to use the term technological arts instead. So if you were to ask me what do you do, I do technological arts. Okay, I'm not a digital artist, because digital artists, what they do is just a representation of something on a screen. But as I have been proving to you, showing to you, I do physical things, I do hybrid things. I don't want to limit myself to a square, you know, because I mean, because of the sake of being cool enough to be a digital artist. So I rather would like to call myself as a technological artist. And this is a book we published in with the help of the Sabancı Museum, which is also available for free if you wish. It's Technological Art Preservation. This is another side story that has not much to tell about today. But if you were to investigate how technology meets with arts, we should also discuss about the historical movements, including Impressionism. Some of you might be familiar with. I mean, this school has such a hybrid structure. Some people might not know, but Impressionism, I bet, is the most popular theme. So, like the art movements in the history of art, and we all have either bags or like some sort of like a picture or like a painting of Impressionist artists. But if you have investigated the reasons why Impressionism was let's say discovered or like came to our attention, we could also make a technological analysis because of this body, which is indeed those days the artists were creating their brushes from certain animals' furs, and this animal's fur was so thick so they weren't able to make very delicate moves, but then it turned out to be the signature for the Impressionism, right? And then not only this fella, but also the invention of the tube, a paint tube. A paint tube is important because previously artists were only like mixing all these ingredients and creating these paints. But when you have the tube, you can paint, put it on your pocket, go anywhere, and then do your painting, right? And also, this is the gentleman who's behind the idea of putting these dye into the tube. And also the Chevalier, which is a device, maybe by that time it's the laptop, because the painters were sitting in their studios painting, never having any luxury to leave because all their equipment was there, like a desktop. But when they came up with this structure, so they could put their brushes in their pockets and put their paints on their next pocket and then get this under their and carry this along and then do paintings in the nature, all right? So this is quite a technological impact in the Impressionism. But if I'm bringing about some movements that are related with technology, certainly. Futurism is yet another movement which happened in the early 20th century, around like 1910s, and mainly famous with its phrase Italian futurism. By that time, the people were able to photograph movement, which is indeed we call cinema, right? And then they were able to see whether a horse, when it's galloping, all the 4 feet are above the floor or not. Because if you will claim it, I mean, how would you prove it without ever having a photo of it? But this was possible by that time. And then people realized that they can also see the details of a movement so that they can include there in their paintings. So this is like a frozen moment of a I bet it's a car movement or something, but I think you might realize the dynamism behind it, but I'm going to show more examples about it. That was the age of industrialization, and that was the age of mechanization, and then that brought about the aesthetics of the futurism, as you see in this example, like the title also proves Dynamism of a Car by Luigi Russolo in 1913. So You can see that there is a car in here, but it's a frozen moment. Again, yet another one which also we can also fancy about it and say it's like a cartoon, but it's another painting that was mainly influenced by the technological improvements. I'm going to jump back a little ahead and then Dadaism. So this is the symbol of the Dadaism where you're familiar with, but it also brings about those issues of collages where you can think of like samples, like using other people's opinions, creative outcome, and then combining them, making compositions. So it's again a bit like making a crowded scene with so many elements. But if you were to investigate more about these movements, back in the 1940s, mid-40s, this incident happened, unfortunate incident, and then we were able to see its influence in Salvador Dali's painting called Uranium Atomica Melancholica Ideal, which is in 1945. So again, some of more proofs about how technology and art go walk in hand together. So if you were to look into the pop art, so these are some of the familiar artists you might be knowing well. Again, we're living in not only the mechanical period, but also in an age where people like to consume more and more. So this is the result of that influence, I would say. But let's again rewind and then go to an era where we see more like aesthetically examples which relate to today's aesthetics. So this is a piece done by Ben Lapovsky in the 1950s and 60s. So they were manipulating the cathode ray tubes with magnets and getting these like distortions, which seem to be like having a certain degree of harmony. This is another example from the 50s, music color. So when a musician was performing, it was generating some visual accompaniment along with it, with some lights and all different gestures. So 1960s were the times where people were experimenting with plotters. So this is a piece by Freder Nake in 1965. So the computer screens were not abundant, but the people like Freder Nake was able to be in contact with like these plotters. A plotter is like a pen holder with like on an XY, it can draw a shape, a sketch. And there were all these labs, like these ones, like Bell Labs. They were looking into finding ways for people to interact so that people can find different uses of computational systems. So these are the very early times, like the pixels are as big as my thumb. But this is again an IBM documentary from the 1960s. Where they were working on these light pens to, again, doing some computational stuff with some interfaces. So these are the early times. But this was 1959. Again, a plotter which was able to generate these abstract shapes. 1969, Vera Molnar. If you are interested, there is an exhibition going on in Pera Museum, which is exhibiting several works of Vera Molnar. And some more work by Manfred Mohr from the same period. What we're observing here, maybe we should also talk about the aesthetic, is a form of repetition, is a form of abstraction, and I'm also going to show you some more examples that are generated in the near century. So like this one, gravel stones, like this one, Michael Knoll in 1964. This one caught my attention very recently. I think it looks amazing. It's a physical rendering. It's not like a hand drawing or a computational rendering. So he was able to generate such mechanical systems where you can create such harmonious movements to generate these visual imageries. And exhibitions are quite important because it's a proof of how people are accepting the idea of like using technology as an artistic expression. So this is one of the early examples from an artist we also talked about, Michael Knoll in 1964. As you can see, he used Fortran on IBM 7090, printed with, it's a print with a microfilm plotter. So here are some examples. Again, when we're looking at them, they might look primitive, but we see a lot of influence of an abstraction. And in 1960s, this is quite an important exhibition, Cybernetic Serendipity, which was exhibited in ICA in London. As you might also realize from the name of the list, it was well accepted and included so many artists. So here's a piece by Namjoon Paik, and you can see how he was manipulating these TV tubes with huge magnets to generate such geometric patterns.
Namjoon Paik has 11 television sets, which he has transformed, so that one cannot see any of the programs that are going out, and yet they provide
so this is a kind of like an analog
for some of the images which one can see.
The artworks that we often see in the exhibitions. In 1970s, the use of technology was also practiced by the artists. As you can see, there's some huge improvement in the visual composition. So this is Paul Brown's piece. 1970s, now the interfaces, again, image processing, video processing, things were improving. 1980s, we have seen an abundance of like home users using software kits like Photoshop, which is quite known with larger audiences now. In the 1990s, the internet digitalization, all these Nokia phones you see over here, like this outdated cameras, games, and electronic arts. This is what we had. And in 2000s, there was an explosion. Social media, digital art, the art of informatics, new media art, technological art, virtual reality, big data, artificial intelligence, deepfake, processor power, blockchain, NFT. And then we have been observing in the 1960s the digitalization of art, where people were writing computer codes to digitalize these arts. But I think in the 2000s we saw the artisticization, this is a quite difficult word, artisticization of the digital, okay? Where the digital realm becomes an artistic playground. So this is a work by Ryoji Kurokawa, and I'm going to be showing you a few more examples. This was in 2010. So again, with the same approach, this is Aaron Coblin's visualization of the flight paths in all over the North American continent area. I mean, it has a lot of like things. I mean, some people might think, looking from an artistic point of view, oh, this is overwhelms me with my artistic essence. But some people might think, oh, there is this information which seems to be like the New York is the hot spot, and then early in the morning you can see more, it's getting more crowded, and as time moves on, the other people on the West Coast awake, and then the traffic starts to jam. But so what is technological arts then? So I said I'm a technological artist, but I didn't define it maybe well. It refers to art made with intensive use of technology in the creative process, which uses technology as a medium. So the interplay between data and art represents a profound shift in how we perceive and create aesthetic experiences. So what is involved in this creative process? I've created a list of elements of the aesthetical findings that we will come across in such art pieces. I've been repeating over and over, talking about abstraction, randomness, it's a pseudo randomness, of course, in computational system, feedback, data, appreciating the noise, self-performance autonomy. So a piece can self-perform itself, it can be generative, it will use multimedia, it can do a simulation of a phenomena, it will confront an unimaginable. Sometimes, as I have been doing music with like earthquake data, I have a little idea about what will it play next. Breaking the historicity of time, audience involvement, flow, dynamism, maybe something that we borrow from the futurists, the process, and creative coding. And now I'm going to be presenting you some examples from artists of our age. Let me introduce you So Chung. She's a Chinese, Canadian, American artist. What she does is she uses, collaborates with robots to make paintings, okay? And in her work, what I observe is some of these things like abstraction, randomness, feedback, generative, confronting the unimaginable, the process of the work, and creative coding. So I'm going to be playing a few clips about and to show you what these things mean in the real case. So this is Soguan. Okay, the next artist I'm about to show you is Ryoichi Kurokawa. We have seen some of his work. I think in his work we see a lot of like abstraction, randomness, feedback, appreciating the noise and flow and creative coding. So these are some examples. It is quite difficult to look into this projector and see the details, but I'm happy to share you all these slides and you can look into these artists. So this is what he usually the way he expresses his art. Let me also play you a little clip about, you will see, I think in this clip he's performing a music performance. Okay, some of the works might be, quite challenging for those who would have a difficulty in looking all these rapid changes. So take it into consideration. If you feel like you're more than welcome to leave or like just don't look at. But you will see there's going to be such a dynamism of flow of all these different visual landscapes. So United Visual Artists is another artist group, one of my favorites. They did an exhibition in Borusan, I think. So what they do is they use data, abstraction, randomness, feedback, appreciating the noise, flow, and dynamics. So they do installations as such, like light installations. Some of you who are into music might know them because they're generating the visuals for Massive Attack. So in their concerts, the visuals are done by the UVA. And then what they do is they use data all the time and to also announce their political views of the band as well. So I think this was done during the Iraq War. So they're using with numbers and generating such landscapes for music bands as well. So this is a piece they did in Victor Albert Hall in UK. So this is a installation, light installation they have done. Certainly, just by looking at this project, it's even worse. We're lacking the whole experience. Of course, you have to be there to get a better understanding about what these people are doing. They have a different aura. So Ryoji Ikeda, he's very challenging. He's a Japanese artist who's using like data, abstraction, randomness, appreciating the noise, flow, multimedia, and dynamism. So this is from one of his pieces. So again, so those who don't feel the comfort, here's my caution. But I think this, you can listen to it. What he says is quite essential to today's topic.
What is data? What is sound?
Ryoji is always talked about as a minimalist, but he loves drama.
For me, I feel Ryoji is more like an architect.
I think of Ryoji as being a conceptual artist who's really interested in the physical experience people have with his art.
I'm basically a composer. My job is to compose something. I wanted to try to compose data into artwork.
So data is just a material or subject to be composed.
He just using the technological tool to conduct binary computer code. So physical phenomena become the element or maybe the note in his composition.
You know, whether it's the DNA sequence or the structure of a protein, he's really interested in the hidden structures beneath perceptible phenomena of our world.
So we're seeing a representation or a cinematization or a sonification of an idea of data.
We can move to the next artist, which is Casey Rees. Some of you might know because of his contribution to the field. He's one of the authors of the programming platform called Processing, which is based on Java. His work, for me, has a lot of abstraction, randomness, appreciating the noise, flow, and creative coding. So this is one of his works. And I can also play you some videos.
Is that you put a few simple rules together and something comes out of that which is entirely unexpected and moves beyond what you could imagine those simple rules producing. So if you're a composer, the final piece you produce is a score. That is your end piece. And I think a lot of the instructions that I write or the software that I write is being a score. And in the case of a music performance, you know, every performance is different because the performer injects their interpretation on top of that. In my case, every time the software is performed, it's performed differently in software by the computer, and some elements unfold differently every time. I think that's it.
Let me move on to the next. Again, this is a great piece by Onformative. It's a group of artists from Germany. So what they do is they use dynamism, abstraction, appreciating the noise, flow, multimedia, creative coding. So they have written as a special program like app to capture the movements of a dancer with the kinetic cameras, and then they were able to generate a piece as such, which I'm going to be playing some part of it. Anyway, I don't know much about, and they're all mesmerizing because, I mean, it will take, I'm having a hard time in stopping them, but take your own time and take a look at it. So I think this is the last artist I'm about to show you is Joachim Sauter, from Germany again, from this group called Art+Com. If you happen to be in Munich and saw a BMW, I think it's BMW, museum. So he's one of the guys who designed the museum. So what in his works, I'm observing a lot of like dynamism, abstraction, flow, and simulation. So this is not a video rendering, so it's the real thing. Again, we're missing the whole experience. And I bet there are engineers among us who are doing, like, maybe some of you are doing mechanical stuff. I think this is super challenging. Like having two ropes to rotate this, give it an arm to this screen, and then getting the coordinate system as precise as this much and present, like it's like a magnifier, as if you're gazing into something hidden. So he was a master in hanging things on the ceilings. And some of more of his work. It is hard, I think, as an artist, practicing artist. I think this is quite a challenge. For those who happen to be in, I don't know, maybe you did, but not realize, or maybe next time you will. In Singapore airport, he has his installation, which is called rain, kinetic rain, I think. So I think they're kind of like physical pixels that render a certain surface in the real space. Okay, yeah, I think I was able to give you some impression about like how the whole story started in the near past. Like we did a walk through the 50s and 60s and saw so many examples of the well-known artists, and then was able to show you a few of my works and then some of the scholars again in this field that I have enjoyed. If you would like to be in touch, please let's be in touch. I'm here. I'm full-time professor teaching at the Visual Arts and Visual Communication Design. And thank you for listening and thank you for your patience. Maybe you have to wait for the mic.
So in terms of the education, you might say, an artist receives, what should be the role of computer science, and like how involved is it currently, and like what's the direction there? Does my question make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm having difficulty in like finding an appropriate answer because I'm an educator as well. But it seems like our job is becoming more translucent or transparent because we're only facilitators to a certain degree, so that students, our students, or whoever around us could benefit from the moment. In this school, I think what we do, we represent a great job. And then in my classes, for instance, in creative coding class, which I'm teaching, I'm seeing some of my students. I never ask what they're studying, so I treat them equally. So I think we should like get rid of all these distinctions and separations. Indeed, in this school, we believe we're interdisciplinary, but there's still this clash between an artist and the scientist and this and that. But I think that's over. Indeed, that was over back in the Greeks, like all the polymaths. They were never asked to do poetry only or maths. So I think our job is to be like more of like a role model or a facilitator as a curator. Certainly, again, maybe a specific to this school. At the first year, all our students are exposed to coding, which I'm benefiting a lot because I'm teaching people to use code as an expressive tool. As long as they're equipped with some certain degree of like experience, we could do more advanced stuff. But even if they don't, still they can. For instance, one of the artists I've shown, Casey Rees, has a background in arts and did a degree in media arts in MIT, and he also established a computer coding platform. And today in my class, I was showing another example, like Zach Lieberman. He's an artist. He was a painter, but he realized he has a passion to use computation to enhance his artistic language. That's something that they should benefit from. Otherwise, teaching them how to make simple mathematics doesn't teach them a lot. In my creative coding, I'm seeing my students are getting benefits, several benefits. One is while learning coding, what they do becomes something that is rendered right in front of their eyes, so that keeps them motivated. And then they feel like they passed a certain boundary where I myself kind of like realized that I should move aside and then leave it to them so that they will keep it throughout their careers. Because I mean, we're here only for the 4 years of time, but there has to be a certain degree of influence. Maybe influence a kind of like has a priority, but I'm having difficulty in finding the right word, maybe a motivation, so that they will find the essence of the computation, not only to make a living, but a sense of more philosophical approach as well. Because you could use computational skills to communicate with people as well. Like, I mean, I think maybe a side effect, but dealing with computers and algorithms, the way that shapes your life and makes you become more efficient in your daily routine as well. For some artists, this might be kind of like a lack of independence, but I believe as soon as they immerse all this knowledge, they will be flowing in this knowledge of like either it can be art history or computational, whatever there is, so they can use it in their further careers. Yeah, computation is quite important, but what I take it more important is the creativity. I think unless you have only skills of creativity, computation can also be done by the second party, third party, like all sorts of different resources. So our job is, I think, is to be like a smart waiter, you know, whenever you feel like, I also use the same analogy for being a parent. You shouldn't be a shadow on a person. You should be somewhere, allocating yourself at some place where you are somehow hidden. But whenever that person is needing your help or assistance, you're right next to them. So I think this is my approach in terms of like teaching. That also applies to my approach to teach people how computation can have a meaning in their lives as well. Yeah, I think there is one.
Which programming language did you use to inform your music?
Yeah, I can. Maybe it needs to go into the recording. That's why I will wait.
Thank you for your presentation. Which programming language did you use to form your music?
Particularly in the raw performances, we for the music we're using a platform called Tidal Cycles, which is based on Haskell. I don't know if you're familiar with Haskell. Another one of my favorite ones, but it's based on this term called functional programming. But that makes us to come up with quick results. And that's what you need when you're doing musical performances. Previously, I used like C Sound, Super Collider, or like something based on Ruby on Rails, but it will take quite a while to accomplish tasks. But with functional programming approach, you can do like amazing stuff within a blink of an eye. And if you're more interested, please also contact me and us. By us, I mean we are a group of people called Algorave who use computational skills to make performances. And we do workshops, and then we want to include, of course, like get more people to join us in this community called Live Coding. Yep. yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I'm reachable, as you know. I'm right next door. If you would like to ask me stuff, just let me know. Thanks for your patience again. And thanks for the opportunity for me to present this.